I got an eviction notice for a place I'd never lived in, taped to my current apartment door like a threat. It listed my full legal name, my social, and a street I didn't recognize, 82 Bellemere Court, so I called the clerk to say there must be a mistake. She put me on hold, came back chipper, and said, "Ma'am, you've been living at 82 Bellemere Court for 8 months, so I don't know who's in the place you're standing in right now." I laughed it off, even though my hands shook. But then the power company emailed a final shut-off warning for Bellemere, so I figured some scammer spoofed my info. I drove across town to see this mystery house, just to tell them in person they had the wrong woman. There was no Bellemere Court on the city map. But my car's GPS insisted the street existed, and would I like to start navigation? Yes, obviously, so I followed the blue line through a part of town I rarely visit. Warehouse blocks, vacant lots, new condos still wrapped in vinyl smiles. The sky turned the color of old steel as I made the last turn onto a street that wasn't there yesterday, and somehow had mailboxes showing years of rust. Bellemere CT was a narrow, peeling duplex with a dead magnolia tree slumped against the railing. A pink notice fluttered on the door like a tongue. The porch boards bowed in the middle as if something heavy had been waiting there too long. My name, Jessica L. Orr, was bold on the notice. Rent past due by 3 months. Signature from a property manager I didn't know. I'm not the type to cry in public, but my throat went tight. I took photos. I knocked, once, twice, then turned the knob just to prove to myself it was locked. It wasn't. The smell hit first. Penny metal and old water, the scent of radiators that never cooled. Inside, the air had that muffled cardboard quiet that swallows sound. A narrow hallway led to a living room where someone had been living the ghost of a life. A couch faced an unplugged TV. 2 books lay open on the floor, face down, holding the page like pressed butterflies. On the coffee table was a stack of mail addressed to Emmy at 82 Bellemere. Bank statements. Insurance forms. A jury duty summons I'd never received. A glossy postcard. "We miss you at Dr. Cassidy's. Annual checkup overdue." I picked up the postcard and the room sighed. An old house shift. I told myself, but it felt like the walls leaned closer. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Ms. Orr," a man said. "This is Officer Vale. We need you to come down and make a statement about last night." "What last night?" A pause. "The incident at your residence." "Bellemere Court." "I don't live here." Another pause. Then, soft but tight. "Ma'am, we have your driver's license on file at this address. We also have 3 recorded calls to 911 from your number. The first one says, 'He's in the hall, don't let him in.'" "I didn't make those calls," I said. The postcard trembled in my fingers. "I was at home." "My home?" "Okay," he said. And in that one word, I heard the paper-thin patience of people who've seen too much. "Then you won't mind coming in," I told him I would. I ended the call and set the postcard down, and that's when I noticed the photo frames on the wall. All the frames had faces turned backward. Family pictures hung with the images to the wall, glass facing plaster. I flipped one around. It was me. A picture from 2 summers ago on a beach I don't remember, laughing with a man whose head was fogged over like someone dragged a thumb across wet ink. A sound trickled from down the hallway. Not a voice exactly, more like someone humming without breath, the human idea of music performed by a throat that never learned the trick. I followed it to the kitchen where the linoleum wore a path to the back door. The humming came from inside the door itself. Like the wood held a mouth, a note was taped to it at eye level. "Don't let him in." The handwriting was mine. The exact nervous curl on "don't" that my 2nd grade teacher failed to iron out of me. I didn't open the door. Instead, I backed away and found the bathroom. The mirror was draped in an old towel pinned with masking tape. The tape had dates on it, a row of tiny tombstones, 4/2, 5/11, 6/30. Fresh tape covered older tape, building layers of time like bark. I pulled the towel down and faced myself, except it wasn't just me. Behind my reflection, the bathroom door in the mirror hung open into a hall deeper than the one in the real house, like the place behind me kept going long after geometry quit. Way down that wrong hall, something was walking toward the mirror with the patient stride of a person who knows they'll reach you eventually. I turned around in the actual bathroom. My door was shut. The hall was normal length, my car keys on the sink like proof of earth. In the mirror, the walking figure stopped. It lifted its head enough for light to lay a thin stripe over its face. The face was my husband's. He's been dead for 2 years. Car accident on Route 8. Closed casket funeral. He smiled, and the mirror fogged in the shape of his breath. A message traced itself backward from his side of the glass. Trade. I put the towel back, hands shaking, tape crackling as it stuck. I left the bathroom fast and clutched the doorframe of the living room to steady the world. Something slid under the front door, a white envelope that sailed across the floor like a slow fish. My name on it again. Inside, a key stamped C5 and a tiny Polaroid. Me, sleeping on a couch I'd never seen, mouth open, the shadow of a man standing over me, his hand reaching, toward my face. I dropped the Polaroid. The oven timer ticked on without having been set. The refrigerator hummed a note like a long, low vowel. The house exhaled again in boards and nails. My skin went cold in that way your body gets when it knows a storm is coming before the barometer stirs. And then, from behind the taped towel in the bathroom, something tapped the mirror from the inside with a fingernail. Once, twice, 3 times. I fled. I didn't lock the door. I barely remembered how to breathe until I was in my car with the engine on and a new address glowing on the phone I didn't type. Precinct, East Side. Interview room C5. The key in my palm read C5. I drove. Officer Vale looked like a man born tired. He led me to a small, overlit room with a table and 2 chairs and a camera in the corner that clicked every so often like a patient insect. He said they'd received 3 911 calls from my phone the night before, all from Bellemere Court. The first was a whisper. The second was a scream. The third went dead like a switch had been flipped. I didn't make those calls, I said. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else, a little too light in the throat. I was home. Vale steepled his fingers and did that detective squint that tries to fit a person into a shape. Who do you live with, Ms. Orr? Alone. He checked a folder, frowned. Our records have you living with a spouse. Aaron, I said, and the name both warmed and chilled me. He died. Vale's eyes didn't move from mine. Then, for the record, who is the man who answered your door when patrol responded to Bellemere at 3:07 a.m.? No one answered, I said. I was there this morning. It's empty. He slid a photo across the table. Grainy, monochrome, body cam still. My front door at Bellemere yawning open. The silhouette of a man. My husband's height, my husband's way of standing when his back hurt, filling the space. Vale tapped the timestamp. 3:07 the night before. A small white square in the man's hand glowed with reflected flash. A note. I fought tears like someone tilting a full glass, trying not to spill. I buried him, I said. I picked out the urn. My mother was there. Vale's mouth made a line. Do you have the urn? It's on my bookcase, I said. Bring it, Vale said. And Ms. Orr, he leaned forward. Don't go back to Bellemere. Not alone. I promised I wouldn't, and, predictably, lied. The street was wrong when I returned. Not just dimmer, older, like the city had rolled time backward just for this block. Houses that had looked derelict in the morning now had curtains in the windows drawn back just enough to suggest a watcher. The dead magnolia by my steps had flowers, brittle, papery things that seemed to rattle in a wind I couldn't feel. I didn't mean to go inside. I told myself I'd stand on the porch, take a photo of the door, go home. But the door cracked open the way a mouth does when it wants to whisper a secret, and I heard a sound so small and human my bones betrayed me. It was a cough. Hello? I said. It came out thin. Jess? Said a voice from down the hall. Don't turn around. I turned anyway. He stood at the far end in the bad light. My husband, Aaron, jaw shadowed, eyes wide and strung with thin red like sleep had been canceled on him for a long time. He looked sorry. He always looked sorry when he knew I'd be angry, and he wasn't sure how to fix it. I tried, he said. I really did. You're dead, I said. And there it was. Both accusation and plea. Not the way you think, he said. And the kitchen door behind him shivered as though something leaned on it from the other side. A note was taped there again. Don't let him in. And someone had written over don't in a darker pen. Can't. What is Bellemere? I asked. A place we never paid for, he said. A place we still pay for. He walked toward me and I took a step back, the boards answering with the groan of tired things. Don't touch me, I said. I didn't know why until I knew why. In the mirror that morning, his breath had fogged from the wrong side. I won't, he said. Not unless you ask. He smiled, and my stomach turned because it was the smile he used to make on purpose when he needed something. He held out a small square, a Polaroid. Look, it was me again, asleep on that couch. But now the dark figure's hand wasn't reaching toward my face. It was already on it. Fingers splayed over my features like a starfish, thumb under my jaw. My mouth hung slack. My eyes, oh God, my eyes were open and looking at the ceiling, bored. What does he want? I asked. Aaron's smile twitched. He wants what everyone wants. A place, a name, a you he can keep. Who is he? The one who knocks. Aaron glanced at the back door, and I realized the humming in the wood had become a listening, a stillness so intent it had weight. He came when we moved into the first place. Remember that closet door that never latched? How it stood open every morning no matter what we did? You said it was because the floor sloped. I said it was because the house disliked us. We laughed. We were wrong. We? I said, Aaron, you... Died, he nodded. Something in his face unbuttoned. I took a different door, he said softly. That night on Route 8, when the glass became sleet and the sound in my head became coins falling down a never-ending stair. The EMTs pulled a man out of the wreck. They called him Aaron. Good for them. I went home. No, I said, and the word broke into smaller no's that had nothing to do with logic and everything to do with the moment you realize you've been brushing your teeth in front of a window. Not a mirror. He lifted his hand. It shook. I can keep him out for a while. His eyes flicked to the note on the back door. But not if you open that. I'm not an idiot, I said, but the word idiot felt brittle. Something tapped the door from the other side, delicate, inquiring, like knuckles that had learned manners from watching, not living. Another note slid under the crack. This one small, this one written in a child's careful hand. Please. Aaron flinched. He learns, he said. He imitates. He improves. The house made that sigh again, nails receding, old wood deciding to be old wood for one more day. My phone hummed in my pocket. Unknown number. I didn't need to see it to know what it was. A recording of me screaming that I hadn't screamed yet. That had become his favorite trick. What is the trade? I asked. You know, he said. You've always known. The note told you don't let him in. If you do, he wears you. He walks around, learns your neighbors' names, figures out what your laugh means when it's real. How you stand when you're trying not to cry. He swallowed hard. But if you don't let him in, he still collects. He found a way to knock on the door of you. From the side that isn't a house. The back door rattled almost apologetically. A polite guest waiting on a porch that never ends. Come with me, Aaron said suddenly. He took my arm, not skin, just sleeve, and guided me down the hall to the tiny bedroom off the kitchen I hadn't noticed before. It held a single chair with duct tape stuck to the arms, the tacky gray ghosts of restraints past. A camera on a tripod faced it. The red light was off. Dust lay over it in a film that looked like film. On the nightstand, a neat stack of VHS tapes. Labels written in a careful hand. Confession of 31, Confession of 32, 33, 34. I stepped closer. 35, 36, 37. A gap where 38 should be. And then Confession of 39. Where's 38? I asked. Aaron's mouth opened. Closed. In the mail, he said. Or in the wall. You want me to sit? I said. His eyes flicked to the chair like a magnet. If you sit, he said, he'll stop knocking. For a while. He only needs one of us at a time. What does he want me to confess? What you took, he said. I thought I'd be offended, but the offense never came. What had I taken? An address. A life that fit like someone else's coat. Or maybe I'd taken a door and shut it and pretended it led to a pantry. On the back of my tongue, the taste of pennies thickened. The house grew heavier around us. I understood with the clarity you admire, even as it kills you, that there were more people in this house than the two who stood there and the one who knocked. The walls had memories. They kept them in stacks. They filed them in VHS boxes with dates and names, and the word confession invented new meanings every year. Tell me the truth, I said. Did you open the door? Aaron looked at the floor. I wanted you back, he said. When the EMTs took the other me, when the funeral took the rest, I came back to the place where we had been. He was there. He said there's a way to be together again. He said trade, and I thought we were trading grief. His voice frayed. I didn't know we were trading you. The back door ticked, 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 a finger testing the wood grain like reading Braille. A new note pushed under the door so slowly it made a sound like a book being closed with a fingertip. In a handwriting that was nearly mine, it said, "She fits better." Aaron bent like someone had cut a string. He put both hands to his face, and when he pulled them away, his eyes were brimming. He never cried loud. The world had to lean into here. You can still go, he said. There are addresses that disappear when you reverse the car. There are streets that forgive. You said he learns, I said. Aaron nodded. He does. So if I run, he will learn that too. Yes. I stared at the chair. The duct tape ghosts glistened like snail trails. A moth threw itself against the ceiling light with the faith of a person who hasn't been disappointed yet. If I sit, I asked, what happens? You talk until he's satisfied, Aaron said. You tell him everything you will take and everything you did take and everything he took that you pretended was yours. You talk until your voice becomes the house that holds you. What then? Then he wears you, Aaron said, and the politeness of his voice made me want to hurt someone. Just for a while? How long is a while? His smile did that old brave thing. As long as he's learning. The camera's red light flicked on with a tiny tick that felt like a fingernail against a tooth. The back door made one soft sound that wasn't a knock and wasn't not. The magnolia outside dragged its dry flowers along the siding with a papery hiss. You can still go, Aaron whispered again. I thought of Officer Vale's folder, of the blanked faces in frames turned to the wall, of the medical reminder from a doctor I'd never met, of the taped towel marked with dates like a calendar of surrender, of C5 on the key in my pocket, of the Polaroid of me asleep, bored while a hand learned my face. Tell me something true, I said. Aaron's mouth trembled. I love you, he said. That isn't an answer, I said. And then, because the house was listening and I wanted it to hear me, I added, but it's something. I sat in the chair. Duct tape floats down like falling leaves in your memory. The sound is gentle until it isn't. The first loop around my wrist felt like a cool hand. The second felt like a promise. Aaron waited for me to pull away, and I didn't. So the third went on in a sigh, and the fourth had a little cry in it. He taped my ankles. He checked the knots with that old tender competence that used to be part of how we lived. Fixing leaky faucets, stapling loose hems, tying down car-top tarps. He stood beside the camera. He looked smaller there. State your name, he said, and his voice had learned a new shape from someone else. Jessica L. Orr, I said. Do you understand why you're here? I opened a door, I said, and then, because the truth insists on company, and I shut one. What did you take? I took a life that wasn't built for me. I wore it like a dress. I pretended it zipped. What will you give back? I looked at the lens until the little black circles swam. I'll give back my face, I said. I'll give back my laugh. I'll give back the part of my name that answers when strangers call. The back door clicked open a quarter inch. The house held still the way a throat does when a pill pauses on the way down. Do you have anything else to say? Aaron asked, but the shape of his mouth wasn't Aaron's anymore. The syllables had been pressed like flowers. They came out with the flat care of a clerk. Just one thing, I said, and I turned my head. Not much, the tape protested, to look at the kitchen. The note on the door had fallen face up. Don't let him in. The word don't, overwritten earlier to can't, now wore a third layer of ink, thick and glossy. Don't again, I smiled. Trade me, I said to the open quarter inch, and the house leaned a fraction closer, and something on the other side leaned back, and my reflection in the cabinet glass smiled a smile I had never practiced, and the camera drank it all. The door opened without sound. The air changed temperature the way it does when a storm front walks through you. Something tall and patient stepped around the edge of the frame and stood where a person would stand when they want to be in a picture, but don't know the people in it yet. I waited for terror to drown me. Instead, a strange relief uncoiled in my chest like a rope laid down. After a long season of knocking, a door had finally decided what it was for. Hi, I said. The tall thing put a careful hand on my face and learned the shape of me. The tape kept rolling.